Throughout gaming history, many of us have considered the fact that there are two main groups of gamers. There's the hardcores, the people who play stuff every single day, trying to be the best at whatever they play. And also the casuals, people who just sort of like to tinker around with maybe a cell phone game every once in a while. But recently, over the course of the last couple of years, there's actually been a third group that's popped up that I like to call the luxury gamers. These are people who don't mind spending a little bit of extra to try and get the best gaming experience, whether it's purchasing the latest graphics cards or something like an Xbox One X. But if you're a retro gamer, now there is an option for people like you, and it's something along the lines of a Mega SG. So this is actually something that just came out recently, and it's kind of mind-blowing because this is $200 minimum. This is a very pricey device, and I'm not going to lie to you, it took me a while to save up to this, but I've been curious and I wanted to buy it myself and see if it's really worth the price. What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and today we're going to be reviewing this really pricey gadget to see if it's really worth it. When it comes to playing some of the best games of the 80s and 90s on modern televisions or in nice clean HD, this is a problem that can actually be a little bit more difficult than you think to solve, because a lot of this standard definition equipment just wasn't made to be upscaled. But now there are people who are trying to work on that issue to make it where we can actually play games in the best quality possible in a way that actually looks the way we remember. So everything you're seeing here right now is straight up native gameplay from this console. I mean, it is just so crisp and so clean. I'm not upscaling it, I'm not doing anything special, it is literally just showing you the native options. What is unique about this though is that the creators of this, the team over at Analogue, they realized that some of the most specific and nitty-gritty stuff is actually something that should be left in there. So actually, if you go into the settings, there are several different additional options that allow you to create different smoothing or different styles of pixels. That way you really can try and customize the experience to be the way you want. You can even implant scan lines to sort of artificially simulate the way that games used to look back on CRT TVs. If you're somebody who hasn't actually been collecting and playing these games for years and years and years, you might not even notice the fact that these things are so special, but trust me, it is very, very impressive about the fact that they managed to make this thing have so many different styles of customization in it. Like, let me just show you some stuff right here. This is Golden Axe, but it's Golden Axe with one of the smoothing filters put on it, and personally, I think that it looks crazy good. Now, I'm not somebody who normally uses this. I actually like to see things as they originally were, just the nice gritty graphics that I grew up with, especially if it is something like a racing game. I actually like seeing all the cool little pixels and artwork that the creators originally envisioned. I really just want to show you a bunch of games here back to back because what I'm kind of just most impressed about when it comes to the Analogue here is the fact that it actually just runs everything super, super well. So what's really unique about this console specifically is that it's actually built with original hardware in mind, which means when you open this slot up, this is actually based on original Genesis architecture. Now what makes that different is this is not actually taking your cartridge and digitizing it, which most of these clone consoles do. It's actually running the original game in its native format and then upscaling it through the HDMI. Now the reason this is different is because it makes it where games that were running really, really good on the Genesis will still run exactly the way that they were originally intended, which if you're playing something like Castlevania Bloodlines, which yes, I actually own a copy of this, it's so cool to actually get a chance to really boot it up and see this game in all of its glory, especially stuff like this wolf fight where there's all this different shattering glass and all these different layers of detail going on simultaneously. Sometimes there's a little bit of see-through character models or slowdown, but that's actually part of the original programming. So the fact that this doesn't try and do accidental hardware acceleration or anything that would actually corrupt or, in my opinion, mess with this experience is great. I think that it's really cool that I can play this game in its original glory 100%. The coolest thing about this to me personally is the fact that getting a chance to play a lot of the games that I never really had the opportunity to beat as a kid in this modern style is great, like Shinobi. So I never really played this game very much as a kid, and getting to go through it now as an adult and trying to figure out the magic and battle off 80 billion ninjas at once is great. This really has a nice, sharp charm to it that I feel like is very, very clearly coming through from the Analogue itself. The Mega SG is something that's pricey, but as soon as you start playing it, you realize that this is something that is meant for collectors. Now, if you're somebody who doesn't happen to have a very big physical collection, there are some additional options like an SD port to basically make it possible to play games in this really, really clean format. But to me personally, what's really the most appealing to this is the fact that the Mega is actually trying to do something very, very unique when it comes to trying to basically make this experience as clean and crisp as possible. And there's two things in this that absolutely blew me away and personally made it worth that high price tag just by itself. The first thing sounds tiny, but it's actually this headphone port. I love the fact that this actually has all the original stuff on the front from the Genesis Model 1. It basically makes it where if you've never actually gotten a chance to listen to raw Genesis music, it is super crisp, it's super, super clean, and really it is some really deluxe, complex tunes from long ago. But what else is cool is the fact that this, since it has the original ports, is compatible with every Genesis controller, including stuff like the arcade sticks. These work. Now keep in mind, for some clone consoles, that is not the case. It actually has only limited functionality. With this, it has everything, including the most impressive thing of all, it actually has, and I'm not even joking about this, the Sega CD connection. Yes, you heard me right. Now excuse me while I freak out for a second. So I think the Sega CD is perhaps one of the most underrated things that Sega ever made, because Sega CD games are great. I actually, oh sorry, it's still plugged in. I literally was just playing it right before I recorded this. I actually own both models of the Sega CD, the Mega CD and also the later one, which is the side loader. You literally, I'm going to do this right now while on camera, you can literally plug it in. And when you do, it 100% works. This literally makes it where you can play Sega CD games in freaking 1080p. And I'm being serious, that's totally real. Here's some raw gameplay of actual Sega CD games, including one that's super, super rare that I just found because I happen to be lucky, called Android Assault. This is like a shoot-'em-up game, but so freaking tough because it has like this crazy multi-part scrolling. So you actually have to go up and down on the screen while fighting off all these aliens, and you know what? It is a very tough experience. Another great thing to look at is, of course, Sonic CD. This is perhaps the most famous of all the Sega CD games because it is, well, super, super good, but also it's just great to actually see this so freaking cleanly upscaled. I just cannot believe that this is here and raw, and quite frankly, this gorgeous. I mean, I'm still just so blown away because this manages to work in such a fantastic fashion. A lot of times when I'm trying to buy these luxury items, I'm always nervous that it's not going to be hyped up or that it's going to be bad, or really the fact that it'll have something that just manages to not be pixel perfect. Like one of the big issues a lot of these older clone consoles is that they'll have music slowdown where sometimes it'll just sound like something is supposed to just be there and it's just not quite as flawless as I would hope. But this one is literally everything I could have dreamed of. So the very last thing we need to address is perhaps the most niche, but it is something that I want to actually talk about because to me it is a very big deal, which is actually aftermarket games. So you've probably never heard of that, but it's basically stuff like this. These are games that are made after a console has stopped production. Typically these are made by indie teams, and to me they're very, very good. All of these just blow my mind because they manage to be basically super, super unique and have some very modern sensibilities in it. Well, my problem is that This one worked perfect. Little Medusa started up, played it for a couple hours, and it's great. It's basically like a Lolo, but with better art. It has like 100 levels. This game is super, super good. The developer himself actually gave it to me, and he's a super nice guy. But what unfortunately happened after that is I tried to boot up Pure Solar, and it wouldn't go. I couldn't tell what was stopping it, but I tried for a good 20 minutes to clean the cartridge, clean the Mega, try everything I could, and it would not go past the opening screen. It would just stick here. I even tried doing things like messing with different functions within the menus to try and make sure it would boot up, and it just never did. Now, I don't know if that's just a testament to the fact that this doesn't have perfect functionality. I don't know if it's maybe that this game broke and I just never noticed, but it is just a warning. Consider it a little bit of a warning that if you're wanting these really, really souped up special aftermarket games, you may have not 100% compatibility. But these have just been my thoughts on the Mega. Now, I just gotta say, it's expensive. I mean, I'm just saying that this is something that is only for the most hardcore collectors. This isn't for casuals. This isn't for somebody who has like 10 games that they have in the attic like Sonic 2. This is for people who do not mind dropping a big chunk of change for a device. I am happy with my purchase, and I will be using this for hundreds and hundreds of hours in the future because this is now going to be my primary way of playing Genesis games and Sega CD games, but it's not exactly for everyone. And before you get a chance to ask, no, this does not work with the Sega 32X since it doesn't have the rear ports that are needed for that. But even still, I'm extremely thrilled with my purchase, and I'll probably actually go out and get the Super Nintendo one next just because I had no idea that it would be this freaking good. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. There have been like 10 planes flying over my house while I filmed this, so I apologize if you heard a plane. Alright, I'm gonna go play Sonic CD. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, you know, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.